If you guys enjoy what I do, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel and it's free and easy to do. Before we get started with today's video, I have an announcement to make. After years of telling other people's stories, I finally released one of my own. My novel Eternal Reign is available now in both ebook and paperback format for those of you who are like me and prefer to collect physical media. You can grab a copy right now on Amazon through the link in the description of this video. And now back to our regularly scheduled program. Out in Old Da, a panicking guy is looking for someone who can fight because his boss is being threatened by a group of criminals called the Lemures. They call their leader the Reaper, and she wants a lot of money from the man, or she'll do some bad stuff to him. So they want to hire you to keep that from happening. The Warrior of Light is not one to pass up easy money, so she heads to the Sapphire Avenue Exchange to meet up with a very skittish Lalafell. At first he thinks you're there to rob him, but when he finds out that you're there to help, he lets you know that the Lemures are forcing him to pay money so they won't kill him. He doesn't know where they came from, but they don't follow any law but their own, and their leader is a scythe-wielding murderer who shows up right on cue with two of her lackeys. Turns out the story that Lalafell was telling you was a whole pack of lies. The Lemures aren't there to rob him at all. They were coming to collect payment for a job they did for him. The Lalafell was trying to pay you to deal with the Reaper so she couldn't collect her much bigger paycheck. But these Ul'dah Lalafells are always doing some underhanded stuff. The Reaper's not one to shy away from shady business, so she can understand the scheme. It's just unfortunate for the Lalafell that he got caught. Lucky for him, the Reaper sees that you're far more than just an average bodyguard, and she decides to let the Lalafell off the hook if he lets her hire you. Of course he agrees, so your contract with him is transferred to the Reaper, who invites you to her base nearby so she can let you know about some work that she has for someone with your skills. The Reaper has heard of you. Not many people in her line of work don't know about the savior of Alamigo. Fighters and mercenaries tend to know about the more dangerous members of their organizations, but she didn't invite you there to try to take out her competition. Her name's Drusilla, and she brought you there to help her with a job. It's nothing illegal. She wants you to help her kill a dead man who's been taken over by a voidsent, a powerful one that enjoys eating the souls of its victims, and it's eaten a lot of them, which is why she decided to recruit someone like you. Thing is, with your current techniques, you won't be able to fight this thing. You need to be able to cut through the void if you want to hurt this voidsent, so you need the techniques of a Reaper. To fully understand, you'll need to know who you're dealing with, so Drusilla reveals the fact that she's a Garlean. Before she wastes time telling you more, she tosses out a strange soul crystal to see if it resonates with you. When you reach out to it, a monster that Drusilla calls an avatar appears. It's a visible manifestation of your essence merged with the power of a voidsent. It'll give you the power and skills that the people of Drusilla's order have been using for generations to hunt down evil. You'll get the knowledge and skills of generations of Garlean assassins if you have the nerve to make a pact with the voidsent. It's a permanent decision. You can't just sever this bond all willy-nilly, so of course the Warrior of Light doesn't hesitate to do it. The voidsent doesn't fully cross over to your world. You draw its power from the void through your avatar, and when you kill things, your avatar transfers the souls back to the voidsent on the other side, which isn't a bad deal, plus you get a scythe. Now that you've taken on your new role, Drusilla figures that the best way for you to learn how to use those new powers is by using those new powers. A member of her family is having trouble with a monster, and he needs some help dealing with it. He's not blood, but everyone Drusilla takes under her wing becomes a part of her family, and not all of them are fighters. Arnagus is waiting outside of Cutter's Cry, and what he lacks in combat skills, he makes up for in his knowledge on ways to make money. Whatever he was doing out there was likely gonna make a whole lot of profit, but it won't if he's eaten, so the two of you head to Cutter's Cry to see what the problem is. Arnagus is another Garlean, and he's not all that trusting of strangers, but since Drusilla vouches for you, he immediately opens up, which shows how much respect he has for her. A chimera has been causing him problems since his trade route cuts through Cutter's Cry, and since none of his men are really equipped to deal with that sort of thing, he called Drusilla. This is right up your alley, so you head into Cutter's Cry to deal with the chimera and to learn how to fight with your avatar. It doesn't take long for you to get the hang of it, and with all the smaller creatures you slaughtered bleeding all over the place, you draw the chimera. It's not a hard fight, but it does give you the chance to learn how to be a Reaper. Adding that to your considerable combat knowledge, you manage to impress Drusilla to the point where she thinks she might have a hard time matching you in a battle. With the chimera down, Arnagus is proud to say that his ceruleum trade will be able to pick back up. One of the things he does is sell ceruleum, and since he has it at a price that's to die for, he can barely keep up with the demand even though he's able to get it straight from Garlemald. The best part is they're not doing anything illegal. Selling goods to the Empire is illegal for Eorzeans, but there's no law against buying stuff from them. Not all Garleans are bad. They do have a lot of psychos in their homeland, but not even all of the purebloods are power-hungry maniacs. Some of them don't have a choice but to serve the Empire. A lot of the troops stationed all over the place would much rather be at home with their families than fighting and dying in foreign lands, but most of the people in Eorzea don't care enough to find out anything about the Garleans. However, since you're fighting with them, Drusilla figures that you should know a little more about the people you're working with. You'd think that after working with Cid, Gaius, Maxima, Nero, and a whole lot of other Garleans, the Warrior Light would at least understand that the entire race isn't insane, but sometimes the same lesson has to be learned more than once. Long before the Empire was founded, Drusilla's ancestors lived in a place called Locus down in southern Ilsabard. The land was fertile, so most of them were simple farmers harvesting crops with the scythes that eventually became the weapons of the reapers. Of course, when people see that you have something nice, they tend to want it, so our ancestors were constantly attacked and forced off of more and more of their land, until 800 years ago when they were driven out of Locus altogether. They had to flee to the north to the frozen land that would eventually become Garlemald. They had to fight the harsh land for resources, but they eventually built the first bits of magitech, and the Empire was born. Their lack of magic made survival hard, so they had to come up with something to give them an edge. So they made pacts with voidsent. That power gave them what they needed to destabilize entire armies by assassinating their leaders. That way they could stop wars before they even started, and that's the people who you signed up to be a part of. With the Chimera dead and the history lesson over, you and Drusilla head back to the headquarters in Ul'dah where she tells you the rest. The Lemures are made up of Garleans who live in exile. Being far from home is hard for them, especially when they're in a place where everyone wants to kill them. Drusilla doesn't expect you to treat them like family right away, but she does expect you to put effort into your job because there's a specific target that she's after, and it's dangerous. Half doing these types of things will get you all killed. Her people have been hunting for signs of her target. One of them is Arnegus, who you've met. The other is Ermin, a very hyperactive young lady. They're after a voidsent called Orcus. He's been able to evade some of the best trackers, but after looking into some missing person cases and unsolved murders, the two of them found something that looks promising. A woodcutter in the Black Shroud disappeared without a trace, and there were sightings of a pale stranger who had eyes the color of blood in the area. That sounds like your target, so it's a good lead that should be followed up on. But Ermin doesn't see why they need help from an outsider for just any old voidsent. Drusilla understands why she'd feel like that since she never saw Orcus in action, but Drusilla's real family was killed by the thing, so she knows firsthand how powerful it is. That was before she started the Lemures, and she had made a promise to herself that she'd stop Orcus for good. If she needs an outsider's help for that, then so be it. So Arnegus leads you and Drusilla to the Shroud, while Ermin stays in Ul'dah to see if she can find out anything else. Drusilla hands you two things, a magitech communication device, and a candle that smells like enough blood to draw all the voidsent in the area once it's lit. The communication device is so if Orcus shows up, you can call for help because that is not a voidsent you can beat on your own. It's feared from Garlemald to Giribania for a reason. He may look like a normal man, but don't let that fool you. If you do, you're liable to be eaten before you realize your mistake. After doing some searching around, you draw out a voidsent, but it's not Orcus, so it easily falls to your side. The voidsent was carrying a ring, which makes Drusilla think that it's the same one that killed the woodcutter. She found the man's body in a shallow grave while she was hunting for the voidsent, and he was missing a ring from his finger. Voidsent like shiny things, which could have been the reason it attacked the man in the first place. Even though you didn't find Orcus, taking care of the other murderous voidsent is still something to be proud of, so Arnegus goes to let the woodwellers know while you and Drusilla head back to your base. She was really hoping to find Orcus since the thing has been causing her problems for 20 years now, but you can only do what you can. There are still other leads to follow, and Ermin and Arnegus are in the process of doing that as we speak. Arnegus is supposed to be heading back to the base with some new information, but he's taking a while, so there's nothing to do but wait. You'll be waiting for a long time, because another member of the Lemures comes rushing in to let you all know that Arnegus has been murdered. The Brass Blades found him half buried, so they're bringing him to the burial chamber in Ul'dah. Everyone takes this hard, especially Drusilla, but she forces herself to go look at the body. He's so badly mangled that she doesn't let you look at him, but from what she sees, she knows that Orcus killed him. She has one more duty to take care of, and it's one of the things that no commanding officer ever wants to have to do. She has to tell the man's wife that he's died. His wife doesn't blame Drusilla at all. She remembered when the Garleans reclaimed Locus 10 years ago, and Arnegus had been given a post there. It was good until he realized that the Garleans had enslaved their former enemies, since they were the descendants of the people who had stolen the land from them in the first place. Orcus didn't like what happened there, so he started working with the resistance. He got found out, and he and his wife were forced to run away. She'd always known it would happen one way or another, and when it did, they fled to Razatin, then to Lemsa. Their luck went bad there too when they were accused of being Garlean spies, so they ran again until they ended up under Drusilla's wing. She did good by them, so Orcus' wife would never blame her for what happened. But she does want Drusilla to get revenge. With all that's happened, Drusilla decides that it's time to tell you everything about her battle with Orcus started. She thought just having more people would let her deal with Orcus, but since she got Orcus killed by keeping secrets, she's not going to make that same mistake twice. The voidsent you fought in the Shroud was one of Orcus' minions. She should have known that since it tried to hide its victim's body, which is a very un-voidsent-like thing to do. He's used that trick before, and he knows that Drusilla knows it. Since she was on his trail, he killed Orcus as a warning. He doesn't kill people fast. He likes to torture them, which is how she knew that Orcus had killed the man after she saw his body. He'll likely be coming for you or her next, after he lets you squirm for a little while. Never knowing the moment of his attack is meant to make you more afraid, then he can strike. Drusilla doesn't want to wait for his next attack. She wants to take the fight to him, and the Warrior of Light is willing to follow her. That dedication makes her fully accept you into her family. Hearing her say that out loud makes Orcus appear, and he lets you know just how close he and Drusilla are. She's his granddaughter, and since she didn't take the hint and stop following him, he decides that he'll need to kill someone else to get her mind right. Drusilla attacks him, but he easily dodges her since she's older and weaker now, but he thinks that you might make a good meal, one that he may actually decide to save her for once. He'll wait until you're fully ripe, then he'll feed, so you have a little time to worry, just like Drusilla said you would. When he leaves, she is well aware of the fact that you have questions, but she'll answer them when you get back to headquarters. Orcus had once been her grandfather, even though he looks young enough to be her grandchild now. That has something to do with his powers after fully being taken over by the voidsent, and his appetite for ether might play some part in that too. He seems to have sensed something he really liked in your soul, which is pretty much par for the course for you. Drusilla has more to tell you, but she wants to check on the rest of her family first to see if Orcus has been hunting them, so the two of you split up to check on the others scattered around the area. One of her people did see Orcus grinning at him. He had thought the man was going to kill him, but the voidsent vanished without doing anything. After getting to see more of Drusilla's family, it's a miracle that they survived for so long considering how most of them aren't fighters of any kind. She didn't gather them because of what they could do for her though. She got them to help them get from under the boot of the Empire. People deserve the right to choose how they live, and under the Empire there aren't that many choices, even though some people are tricked into believing that they have freedom through their faith in the Empire. That faith can be used to make people do all types of things, including going to war with people who have never done anything to them. Emperor Solus Zos Galvus had used that faith to rile up the people and turn their desire to reclaim their homeland into a holy mission to spread enlightenment to the savages, which put them at odds with all other people and beastmen alike, and led to the slaughter that built the Garlean Empire. Some people thought that it was a good thing, but people like Drusilla's grandfather saw the true tyranny that was leading their people. The Reaper powers were passed down through the bloodlines of the original Reapers. Voidsent pacts don't necessarily end until the actual voidsent is killed, and Drusilla's grandfather Rulus was one of the most powerful members of the Order. The Reaper's job is to protect the people from their corrupt, power-hungry tyrants, so Rulus decided that he needed to kill Solus. But there's a problem. Solus was Emmett Selk, and since you know who and what he is, you know that killing him is not something that's easily done. 20 years ago, Rulus tried to do it. He obviously failed, and when he came back, whatever he had seen had turned his hair white. He didn't say much about the fight other than the fact that Solus wasn't human, but he changed after that. The defeat made him look for more and more power, which caused him to give more of himself to the voidsent that fueled his avatar. Eventually Orcus attacked and consumed Rulus, destroying everything that had once been Drusilla's grandfather before taking his body. Now being fully in your world, he began to feed on all of Drusilla's family. He got her too, but he didn't drain her soul, he ate her avatar. After that meal he couldn't eat anymore, so she escaped. But since her grandpa had tried to kill Solus, she had to run away because the man was not going to let her live after what happened. She wandered around for years after that until she found others who had defected from Garlemald. The name Lemures is what lost spirits are called in Garlemald, which is why she named her group that. The name fits since her people woke up from the empty, dead life they had in Garlemald to live again as something new. While you're all standing around trying to figure out when Orcus plans on attacking again, he appears in the room and snatches Drusilla. He wants to kill her, but seeing how you've grown closer to the old woman, he thinks making her suffer will make you taste all the better. So he takes her away so you can chase after them, knowing that every moment you take to find her is time he gets to spend removing body parts. Ermin immediately sends her people out to try and find where Orcus has taken Drusilla. It doesn't take long to find out, since the voidsent sends a letter written in Drusilla's blood saying they're in the Dusk Vigil. Ermin gathers everyone she can, but for a battle like this, they just die. This is a job for Reapers, so you're going alone. Ermin doesn't like it, but she finally agrees, although she does tell you to at least bring Drusilla's scythe with you. When you get to the vigil, you see Drusilla laid out on the floor, and of course Orcus appears in between you, ready for dinner. The voidsent is extremely powerful, and while you put up an admirable fight, when he gets serious, you're outmatched. But Drusilla's not as dead as he thought, so you throw a scythe to her, and the two of you get to work putting an end to the voidsent that terrorized the woman's family for years. When you bring him down, Drusilla finally lands the finishing blow, removing Orcus's head. Successful, the two of you head back to headquarters, where everyone excitedly greets you both and celebrates your first successful mission as a Reaper. Out in Limsa Lamensa, the Warrior of Light bumps into a woman from Sharlayan who is clearly new to the area. She's on a mission of some kind, and once she finishes it, she wants to get some tea with Alice so she can brag about hanging out with her. Apparently, both of the twins are extremely popular in Sharlayan. The fact that you found out all of this before she notices that you're standing behind her means she probably won't succeed at her mission if it needs any type of observational skills. When she does see you, she introduces herself as Layla Jinjal, and when you tell her your name, she swears she's heard it from somewhere, but she can't remember where. She's on a mission from the Forum, but since it's her first time in Eorzea, she was planning on hiring an adventurer like you to be her escort. She's after some fugitives, so the mission will be a little dangerous, but that goes with the territory. Since you're up for the job, Layla wants you to meet her outside of the city so she can tell you about her mission away from all the nosy people. The fugitives that she's after fled Sharlayan and came to Eorzea, but they aren't your normal criminals. Apparently they've enhanced their bodies using some illegal practices, which also made them a little insane. While one of them was having a particularly bad mental episode, he killed someone, then died not long after from the side effects of his enhancements. But there are still 3 more that are on the loose. Their leader is a Viera male who stole some valuable technology too that she needs to get back. What he stole is not all that easy to explain to an outsider, so she brought a soul crystal to make it a little bit easier. For some reason, the crystal gets really hot in her hand for a moment, something that she never saw happen even when she was at the studium, which makes her think it was reacting to you. The secrets to the technology that was stolen came from a similar soul crystal that was owned by a member of the Healing Institute in Sharlayan. Since those particular crystals are meant to respond to someone who has a strong desire to help people, but who has also failed to do so, the people who loaned it to her said to give it to whoever she worked with in Eorzea if it resonated with them, because the knowledge the crystal contains will be really useful on her mission. It holds the knowledge of how to mix magic, etherology, and medicine, and the people who master it are called sages. When a sage fully understands their abilities, they can both heal people and kill them, something the Warrior of Light will be more than willing to learn. And since you're not a bad violent murderer, Layla is willing to give you the tools of your new job and to show you the basics of how to use them. Since she sucked at magic, she couldn't do the job herself, but she can show you what she learned at the studium. Once you've changed your clothes and Layla gives you a quick explanation about the sage's extremely unique floating weapons, the two of you head to Idleshower because that is where Layla's information says her targets are. When the two of you reach the small town, you split up to see if you can find your targets. While you're looking, you hear a man screaming for help, and you arrive in time to see your 3 targets attacking a man with every intention of killing him. Because thinking isn't high on the Warrior of Light's priority list, she steps in between the man and his attackers right when one of them hurls a fireball at him. Lucky for you, the Viera man named Loifa shields you with his magic. He's clearly a sage, one who knows what he's doing, but since there are witnesses now, he and his 2 friends teleport off instead of continuing their attack. Layla can't understand why the leader of the criminals protected you, but whatever the reason, she's glad both you and their target are alive. The man who you nearly ate a fireball for is named Faldranet, and he's also from Sharlayan. He was just going about his business when they came after him. He's a sage too, and he travels the land offering healing to people who can't afford it. He may not know why the 3 people attacked him, but with one of them using sage techniques, he has an idea about why they're in the area. They're likely on their way to St. Marcian's Arboretum. Some plants are forbidden in Sharlayan, but they still grow in the Arboretum. and they could be useful to a sage who wants to do some damage. FFXIV notices that you're a sage too, and hearing that you were chosen by the soul crystal and an outsider is shocking to him, since Sharlayan doesn't really deal too much with outsiders. It's the reason he left. He figured he could do more good for the world outside of the nation than in it. Then he heads off to continue his work while the two of you get ready to chase after Loifa and his friends because Layla refuses to let him run around doing bad things while wielding the sage's soul crystal. The place has been falling apart since the Sharlayans abandoned it, but it's huge, so finding Loifa may not be all that easy, if he and his friends are even there. The Arboretum is far from safe, but fighting your way past some of the overgrown plants and insects gives you a chance to practice your new techniques, and as luck would have it, you find traces of the fugitives that lead you right to them. Since you didn't take Loifa's warning to stop following them, the trio attack you. Together they make a very deadly team, but Layla's a pretty good fighter herself, and adding your sage techniques to the mix makes a combination that is annoying and time-consuming to deal with. With the three of their bodies being enhanced the way they are, Loifa's impressed that you held your own, but they don't really have time to waste playing with you, so they teleport away. They leave so fast that they drop a pack with the plant in it that they'd taken. Layla doesn't know much about plants, but she also found a diary that she thinks was written by a sage, so that might help figure out what the fugitives were planning. A lot of the words are hidden by an enchantment, one that Layla thinks she can break with a little bit of time, so you head back to Idleshire to get to work on that and to send the plant back to Sharlayan so they can tell her what it is and why a sage would want it, because she still can't understand why Loifa and the others left the city in the first place. The plant is called Musmalloy, and it has some ether strengthening properties, which is why it was outlawed in Sharlayan. Loifa probably used it to enhance his sage abilities, but that still doesn't explain why. Since they didn't get what they wanted from the Arboretum, they'll be looking for it from somewhere else, so Layla had her informant find an apothecary who sells it because she's pretty sure that person will be Loifa's next target. The seller lives out in Lost Hope in Thanalin, so your next stop is the Blackbrush Station. The woman you're looking for has a tattoo on her face that makes her pretty easy to spot, and the fact that she's panicking and calling for help makes picking her out of the crowd even easier. She was in the middle of dealing with a customer when some bandits attacked. She was able to get away, but the bandits are still beating on her customer as we speak. You race off to help, only to find out that it's Loifa, Mahad, and Ansel attacking FFXIV again. Once again, the two of you step in, but Layla wants to know why they keep attacking such a good man. The fact that she just assumes he's the good one and they're bad ticks Loifa off so much that he starts to regret saving you when you first met. FFXIV really doesn't make the situation better by talking down to the man when he should have just stayed quiet, so of course a fight gets ready to start. But before you all rain death and destruction down on one another, the apothecary recognizes Loifa's companions. The looks they give her proves that they know her too, but if they were getting ready to talk, the fact that Loifa does something to make one of the insects in the area transform into an elite hunt mark before sending it after FFXIV ruins the conversation. The man is still way too smug, which is pretty par for the course for most Sharlayans, but his attitude makes Ansel get so mad that his ether goes out of control. Loifa goes to help him while FFXIV runs to draw away the creature Loifa made. You go and deal with it, which is a little more difficult than you might have expected, while Layla watches Loifa and the others to make sure they don't get away. They're still there when you get back, but seeing how bad off Ansel and Mahad are, Layla can't bring herself to attack them, especially since she recognizes the symptoms as side effects of enhancing their bodies. The procedure causes the ether in the body to avoid the natural changes that happen throughout life, which can lead to some horrible complications. There was a rumor that a rogue healer was testing ways to fortify the body's ether on live subjects a few years ago. That man was using forbidden sage techniques that very few people even knew about, and while some of the test subjects survived, they had really bad side effects. Layla knew about the rumors, but the forum had said they weren't true. Loifa thinks the fact that she believes what they said makes her naive, but he's not going to argue the point. His friends have recovered enough, so they teleport away before Layla can decide to attack them again. She feels bad that she let that perfect opportunity to catch her target slip by, but she just couldn't bring herself to attack while they were in pain. That seems a bit stupid since she would likely be taking them to be executed if she gets them back to Sharlayan, but she probably doesn't feel bad about that since she won't be killing them directly. In any case, she needs a new lead now, and since the apothecary seems to know Mahad and Ansel, that's a good place to start. Turns out the pair of them are her adopted children. They had lost their real parents when they were young, so she took them in and raised them like they were her own blood. Their lives were comfortable until Mahad got sick with a disease called ether sperm, which stops the body from being able to draw ether from food. There's no cure for it. What's worse is while she was trying to take care of her, a beast attacked the settlement. Ansel tried to keep it away from his sister and was hurt so badly that the doctor said he would likely spend the rest of his life in bed. Their mother didn't have the money to take care of them, but fortunately a healer came by and offered to help the children free of charge. The problem was they were in such bad shape that he would need to take them to a special treatment facility to work on them, and it could take years before they would be well again. Their mother didn't know what else to do, so she sent her children with him. She had always hoped that she would see them again someday, and to finally know that they were alive is the best thing that could have happened to her. As for the healer, the man's name was Gildevane, and he was from Charlian too. After hearing that touching story, Faldranet heads off, and even though the danger's past for now, Layla still wants to tell the immortal flames to be on the lookout. Before she heads out, she wants to know how the apothecary met Faldranet. Apparently the man is a regular of hers who always heals a few people when he comes by. She met him through an acquaintance in Elport who gets his alchemy ingredients from as far away as Thavnir. This time, as usual, Faldranet was buying a plant that is said to be used to treat serious illness, a plant called musmaloi, the same plant that Loifa was stealing from the Arboretum. That gives Layla a lot to think about while you head back to Idleshire. By the time you make it there, Layla is questioning everything she thought she knew. The only reason Loifa and the others even wanted the forbidden plant was to draw out Faldranet. He's clearly their target, not to mention the fact that Layla's still thinking about the rumors that the Forum denied and whether or not they were truly false. It's making her rethink her whole mission. For starters, she doesn't fully believe that Loifa and the others are criminals at all anymore. To make things even more confusing, she contacts her people in Charlian, and because of what she's found out, they decide to reopen the investigation into the rogue sage. Turns out, there's more truth to the rumors than they thought, and the sage who fled Charlian not too long before Loifa and the others was named Gildevane, the same one who took Mahad and Ansel. That would explain their enhancements, their sickness, and their strong desire to kill the man who experimented on them. Which means you need to have a talk with Faldranet, and the best place to start looking for the man is in Elport where his merchant friend is. You barely have a chance to set foot in Elport before a yellow jacket comes running up to you screaming for a healer. Some people have been attacked right outside of the gates, so you rush off to help only to find a very dead merchant and Loifa, who's also in pretty bad shape. While Layla's not sure if Loifa and his group are as malicious as she thought they were, it doesn't change the fact that one of them did kill someone during their flight from Charlian, and the person they killed was Layla's mother. So it's really hard for her to not just let Loifa die. But he did save your life, so you kinda owe him. Plus he can't tell you anything if he's dead. And he didn't personally kill her mother, so Layla finally decides to let you fix him up. The first thing he does when he wakes up is ask about his friends, but they're nowhere to be seen, which means Gildevane took them. Loifa blames the two of you, because if you hadn't kept getting in the way, they would have already dealt with the man, because as any half-skilled detective would have already figured out, Faldranet is Gildevane. He changed his face when he left Charlian, but he's still running around experimenting on people while pretending to help them. The three of them had confronted the man at Elport, but he overpowered them, so Mahad and Ansel took a hit to protect Loifa, and despite all the power that he has, he couldn't help them. He had met Gildevane when he was young. He'd been born with a lung disease that got worse as time passed, and there wasn't much hope for him getting better until Gildevane showed up to him and his master claiming that knowledge from Charlian could fix him. His master was so happy about the news that Loifa agreed to undergo the treatment. Instead of healing him, Gildevane put him through some experiments to fortify his ether along with a group of others. Most of them died. The ones who lived were cured of their diseases, but they also got superhuman strength and they could channel magic easily. Even with those power boosts, Loifa wasn't a match for Gildevane. His friends are in trouble, and he's willing to do anything to save them, including asking you for help, something the two of you are more than willing to give. Since Gildevane took Mahad and Ansel, he plans on doing more experiments on them. Loifa wants to find them as soon as possible, but Layla points out that if the three of them got thoroughly wrecked, then it'll make more sense to make a plan since he's probably enhanced himself too. He doesn't want to, but he gets it, so the three of you head back to Idleshire where Layla gets news confirming that Gildevane had used musmaloi in his experiments. And there are no records of any healer named Faldranet, which proves without a shadow of a doubt that he's who you're looking for. Loifa admits that he could have tried to talk to you, but without all the current evidence, Layla wouldn't have trusted him. She was too mad about her mother. Loifa didn't even know the woman who had died that day had been her mother. During their escape, one of their allies had collapsed, and a sage had come to help them when their companion lashed out and attacked her before they could stop him. The last thing the woman had done was give Loifa a soul crystal. Surprisingly enough, the people in Charlian agreed to help hunt down Gildevane, so it won't be long before you know where he is. While you wait, It's a good idea to practice your techniques, and since Loifa's way more experienced at being a sage than you are, he could probably teach you a thing or two. So you and the bunny boy check in with Midnight Dew to see if any of her hunters need help. There are all types of dangerous monsters out there, so there are probably plenty of people who wouldn't mind you throwing a few healing spells at them. You take care of the ones who aren't all that bad off, but for the more serious wounds, Loifa handles them himself, although he's surprised when he's actually shown gratitude. Being able to protect people was a dream he had given up on because of his illness. The duty of all Viera men is to be a wood warder and protect the forests around their homes, but he had given up on ever being able to support his tribe. Then Gildevane had come and given him that hope again, until it died in the man's laboratory. All for what Gildevane claims to be the betterment of mankind. Because of that, the only thing Loifa had been using his sage powers for was revenge, but after meeting you and Layla, he feels like he can do more with it. And it actually feels good for him to be able to see a light at the end of the tunnel again. But he can't get through that tunnel until he saves his friends and deals with Gildevane, so you both head back to Idleshire to see if Layla's people have found the man. Her people have tracked some strange etheric activity to a cave in the Dravania forelands near Somal. That's where Gildevane is keeping Loifa's friends. They're both still alive, but Layla's people couldn't find out what shape they were in. As for the man himself, someone who knew Gildevane when he was younger said that after he graduated from the studium, he studied a whole lot of different fields and was made a professor. That was where he'd met his wife, who was also a researcher and a sage. She ended up getting very sick, and no amount of healing could save her. She died after only a week. Gildevane changed after that. Tragic backstory or not, that doesn't excuse what he's done, so the time has come to deal with him. To try and keep you from dying, Layla put together some gear that should give you some resistance to Gildevane's magic. Plus, it looks really cool. When you get to the lair, Mahad and Ansel are still alive, but whatever Gildevane's done to them has given him control over them. They were good test subjects, but he really wanted Loifa since he got all of the strengths, but none of the negative side effects of the procedure. And once he makes his friends beat him to a pulp, he'll run some more tests on him. Plus, seeing how well they stack up in a fight against the three of you will let him know how well he did. The difference in strength that the two of them have compared to how strong they were the last time you fought is like night and day. The fact that you're trying not to kill them plays a small part in that, but the steroids Gildevane pumped into them really amped up their power. But the three of you knocked them out, giving Loifa a chance to heal them and break Gildevane's control. But it also leaves him open to an attack. Fortunately, you've learned the technique he used to protect you when y'all first met, and you returned the favor, giving him the time he needed to fix his friends. Once they're all better, you all turn your attention to Gildevane. The man thinks of this as an even better opportunity to test his experiments, and he injects himself with something, transforming into something that I will admit looks really cool. He looks like a very deadly Dark Souls boss. Well, most of those were deadly, but you get the point. He fights like one of them too, but he's no match for the five of you even with his power up. Showing much more restraint than I would have, Loifa decides to let Layla take Gildevane back to Charlian to face their justice instead of just executing the man right there. His friends are okay with his decision, and Layla not only lets him keep her mother's soul crystal, but she tells her superiors that the fugitives got away and there's no way she can find them again, giving Loifa and the others a chance to leave and for the first time in a long time live a life that they choose for themselves. This concludes the story of the Sage. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, comment, share it, and subscribe. Grab a copy of my novel on your way out, and I'll see you all next time.